Hey YouTubers, Mike Martin's here, Mike Martin's channel. I have no education. Zero. I barely finished high school. When I went through high school, I was on some work program. Basically work half the day in a transmission shop and the other half in school because I wasn't good at school. I barely could read. And a lot of people that went ahead of me or did better and stuff, they don't want to be my friend anymore on Facebook. I don't know why. Anyways, I got a story here, and it's a really good one about education. It's I'll leave a link below. You guys comment on this. The article goes on to say, the real reason today's university graduates are struggling to find work. They're struggling to find work, people. When it comes to millennials entering the workplace, we've heard the stereotypes over and over and over again. They're lazy. They're unmotivated. They're glued to their smartphones. They're entitled and expect to come in as a CEO rather than work their way up from low-paid entry-level positions the way their parents did. But an expert who has spent almost 3 decades in recruitment services has sharply rebunked the stereotype, saying it's frankly bull. The real reason millennials can't find work. A survey of more than 14,000 Australian university graduates published earlier this week suggested young people were shooting themselves in the feet. The Grand Australia survey said millennials are just too picky when it comes to their first job, with more than half seeking a company with a reputable image and lack of willingness to make personal sacrifices for their careers. But Steve Spearhead, CEO of career guidance firm 2.0, says it's more complicated than that. When asked if the stereotypes that young people were lazy and entitled was true, he said that was bull. He told news.com.au, young people face significant employment challenges nowadays that have nothing to do with laziness or entitlement. Rather, based on his own experience helping struggling millennials find jobs. He said digital disruption, increased competition, false understandings from the education system, and parental pressure play significant roles here. If we look at jobs that were available in the 1980s, and compare them to now, it's significantly different. He told news.com.au entry-level positions have now gone. They're either been replaced by technology or sent offshore. That's very true, people. He referred to the banking sector as an example, noting a number of his clients are rejected by the big 4 banks. People were processing bank checks in the 80s. It was manual data entry, and they start at the bottom and work their way up. Technology has replaced those roles, and others have been moved offshore to cheaper labor markets. So you got bank machines, you got things like that that replaced all that, right? Shepard also, I keep calling him Shepard, it's Shepard, also said the screening process for hiring prospective employees has become more stringent and the expense of the new generation, thanks to technology. So I hired a new hire onto my business at one of my shops, and he was looking at other jobs and stuff, and I'm like, no problem. So he had going on his third interview, 3 for the same job. What are they going to do? Give you a math test first, then a spelling test second, and then a psych test third? Or urine test third? Give me a break. Anyways, in the old days, you'd phone up, apply on the phone, and even if you weren't quite the match, they might go, yeah, well, there's something about this person. I'll give them a chance. Now you can have a bachelor's degree and 5 years experience, but if someone doesn't tick all the boxes X, Y, Z, you reject them. There's more people graduating and more competition. Today it takes young people 4.7 years on average after leaving a full-time education to enter full-time work. 30 years ago, it only took an average of 1 year. Holy smokes. While university graduates will on average earn significantly more than people who finish their education at year 12, which I did, those without assistance will bear the financial burden for a long time. You know what? I could challenge that. The 4.7 years after leaving a full-time education to full-time work, plus the 4 or 5 years you spend in university, if you spend time working the whole time in an entry position job, let's say at some big fat company, and then right at the bottom, cleaning the floors and working your way up to the mailroom, working your way up, I could bet you anything that 8 years later you would be in a better situation financially because you're not going to be paying those student loans back. Student loans are the mortgage for the house, and you don't have the house. So it's like the carriage without the horse. While university graduates will, on average, significantly more than people who finish their grade 12, without assistance, be financial burden for a long time. I don't believe that. According to the Foundation of Young Australians, a 3-year bachelor degree costs 26,298 Australian dollars. This is almost 3 times what it costs in 1991, adjusted for inflation. So I guess everyone's making 91, 3% inflation. I guess everyone's making down there in Australia like 46 bucks an hour to pay for their education, right? Despite this cost, Shepard argues universities aren't adequately prepared young people for the workforce. That's true. That's why people that are actually watching this and listening to me get a career job like a plumber, electrician, a welder. Get a real man's job. Believe me. You get a job like that, you're set. You can work where you want. You can make your own hours. You know what I'm saying? When I left high school, I specialized in automatic transmission overhaul. I used to rebuild automatic transmissions. The mechanic would remove the transmission from the car. I would take the transmission apart, find out why it has no reverse, find out why it has no second start, find out why it has no drive, whatever the problem the car has. Diagnose it, order the parts, rebuild the transmission, wash all the parts, rebuild the transmission, put it back in the car, fill it with oil, and off the customer goes. And that's what I did. I was a specialist in automatic transmission overhaul. And I was good at it. I was getting paid hand over fist. And let's continue here. I don't want to sound too critical of universities, but we've got 10 to 15,000 final year students and limited resources to provide career support for them, he said. He rejected the linear approach to education, saying it's not as simple as picking a lone career path in high school, following it through university, and coming out with a job. He also criticized tertiary education systems, career fairs, and giving people false understandings, saying that big brands showcase a tiny percentage of successful graduates who land a job at Google or any other major corporation, creating clouded views of what interning and employment look like for the majority. That's true. It's all a big business. I think schools, universities, it's all a gigantic business. Student loans, in Canada here, it's federal. So the government controls student loans here. So it's a really big business, you know. Instead, they should let the banks do it, and then let the banks fight over interest rates and payment plans and stuff like that. And like I said, a lot of the people that I know that went to university, they just didn't land any good jobs. Like, I mean, they really struggled. Or they got a government job, so they're working for the public sector. I mean, working in the... And then I'm talking about a doctor or a policeman or anything like that. They got something like, you know, like a mailman. You got 6 years of university to deliver mail. Like, you see what I'm saying, right? Based on his experience working with millennials, Shepard said that it's clear parenting plays a role here, criticizing the impact of parental pressure and millennials' career decisions. Parents apply their own desires for their children, and often children end up studying things they hate, he said. They'll say, get a law degree. Okay, my kid's never going to get a law degree. I don't care. Can I tell you why? There's like 3,000 to 5,000 lawyers graduating every year. Well, they're not lawyers. They got law degrees. They're not lawyers. So in the United States, like 16,000 lawyers a year graduating per year. You don't need 16,000 lawyers for a year. There's not that many. You know what I'm trying to say? If people want to get into a real job or a real career, get into farming. Farming is where the money's at. Farming, cultivating, sowing, planting, harvesting, taking courses. There's 6-month and 3-month courses offered in farming and agriculture. I really recommend farming because the future is food. Anyways, he said the same parents need to put place pressure on universities to adequately prepare students for workforce rather than just educate them. A 2016 study of National Institute of Labor Studies found the proportion of graduates in relevant full-time work has plummeted. In 2008, 56.4% of university graduates had secure full-time work in 4 months since completing their studies. In 2014, the number has dropped 41.7%. But almost alarming drop was for the new graduates aged 20 to 25. In 2014, only 39.4% 20 to 25-year-old graduates had secured relevant full-time work, leaving almost two-thirds, 60.6%, languishing in casual or part-time work. So let's take this two steps back. They're not actually going into, okay, they're working, but if they're working at McDonald's, does that count? They're not getting into specifics here saying that the graduates that graduated with a law degree found a firm. No, they're just saying they're working. They're not getting specific. Working at McDonald's is considered working too. So they're not really getting into specifics here. And that's the scary part. Shepard says, the solution isn't simple, but that all sides need to play a part. Really, I think everybody could play a role in this, he said. The government can put more pressure on the education system and provide the system with more funding to deliver that. That's all they need is more funding. Likewise, employers need to be more active in hiring people. Baby boomers are retiring. Employers need to adapt and take risks on millennials. But if parents start saying, I'm not going to let my child study at your university unless you can actually show them something different, they'll start to make movements somewhere. Rather than following a traditional linear approach, he said young people ultimately need to be encouraged to broaden their horizons and apply their skills to different fields. They may end up surprising themselves. So, I would strongly recommend getting into trade work. Like I said, framing, forklift operator, long-haul truck driver, plumber, welder, underwater welder. I sound like an infomercial. But I'm being straight up with you guys. I did a trade job before I opened my business. I learned all kinds, and then I got into the selling part of my business, where I was setting up contracts with big companies to fix their transmissions of their fleets and stuff. So I got all ends of the spectrum, and it was really good for me. It was really good life experience. But I really strongly recommend to really think over if you want to be a lawyer, if you want to, do anything. I'm not picking on lawyers, right? But there's a lot of lawyers graduating. I strongly recommend to maybe look at the university and see if it's more of a business than wanting to educate. Sure, they're going to want to educate you, and then the tuitions are going up, and you need a degree to make more money. And like I said, a lot of people that have degrees, or a lot of people that did really well in school, the ones that are really ahead of everybody and laughed at me because I couldn't read, well, a lot of them basically had to remove me off Facebook because they can't handle someone dumber than them doing better in life. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this whole education thing. I think it's a huge I think it's just a gigantic business. And if you're in Australia and New Zealand watching this, or the United Kingdom, is your student loan system, is it through federal government? Is it through the federal government? If so, can you go bankrupt on your student loans? Because here in Canada, you cannot go bankrupt on your student loans. Let me know what you guys think. Comment below. Thanks for watching, guys.